Let's talk about sponsor cards. I know you're a big fan of sponsor cards, but basically what I think is sponsor cards are not free. They do cost you something, but they are very cheap. It costs you basically an action, you could say, or it costs you 5 gold and an X token if you compare playing a sponsor cards to just breaking 5 and breaking. If you play fewer sponsor cards, you push the break more. So there's also this idea that if you're not playing so many sponsor cards, you'll play more rounds, you'll play more animals because you break more and get more turns. I feel like this is probably something you would debate with me, so...
I think it's completely wrong.
Alright,
I would say the exact opposite. I think sponsor cards are absolutely free. When you're pushing a break, you're also pushing a break for your opponent. The more breaks you have in a game, the shorter the game is gonna be. Sure, you get more money, but so does your opponent, and he also gets to do animals, but he doesn't have to break 5, he can play a sponsor card for more appeal instead. So sometimes you do really just not want to play sponsors to push the break, depending on your strategy versus your opponent's. In general, you just want to play every sponsor you see, or every good sponsor you see.
In some games, when you just have 1 or 2 sponsor cards, like Predators, you discount Predators or something, sometimes you can just run away with the game because you just have this 1 sponsor card, and then you just break a lot, and you just keep playing Predators and stuff, and you just run away from your opponent. So maybe this is what I'm trying to describe, that sometimes it could be okay to play fast with a lot of breaks and just play a lot of animals.
Yeah, for sure. But it also relies on your opponent having a very slow strategy. If your opponents have a lot of efficient animals that matches space conservation projects, if you're just gonna waste your time breaking 5, opponent's gonna thank you for it.
Yeah, well, what are your thoughts about sponsors? Let's go with that.
It's the best card type in the game. You do have to know when to play a sponsor and when to break, even if you have a sponsor in hand. Probably the biggest imbalance in Ark, like if you look at the animals. For example, I saw some thread on a forum like, oh, can we just ban Eagle already? But the animals are not that high of balance difference compared to the sponsor cards. It's so different, like the best sponsor and the worst sponsor, they are so different in power level.
Yeah, and here is a point I heard you make sometimes, that upgrading sponsors also makes you quite flexible. So you can play sponsor cards from the display, creating threats that your opponent has to deal with if there's a good sponsor card on the display. You can also break 5 to get 10 gold in the next token, which is actually better than you think, just getting plus 5 gold from this action.
Like the 10 gold is okay, but it's mostly to advance the break. If the remaining of the break is very bad for you, but good for your opponent.
And obviously if you have some of the level 2 sponsors, it's also really good. You can also play several sponsor cards at once. It kinda occurred to me when I started climbing that all the 3 cost sponsor cards, they kinda get better if you have upgraded sponsors, I feel. Because it's you can usually play more of them at once. Also for this purpose, if you have a lot of X tokens, it's also good to have upgraded sponsors if you wanna like burn some X tokens and playing an extra sponsor card in one action. So you already talked about it a little bit. What is it that makes some of these so good, so broken even?
Basically, every sponsor bails down to giving you stuff for free.
So in general, you should really play sponsors instead of breaking.
In general, yeah.
And if you want to hear more about sponsor cards, you can check out your channel, JD Secret Police, because you did a very nice guide on all the sponsor cards, a tier list, so...
I know Sam put out a video about it like last week as well. Obviously, it's not as good as my list.
No, of course.
It's still worth checking out.
And obviously, we didn't talk about the best cards in the game yet. So one of the best cards is, of course, this win card that gives you 41 points, but it's actually not the best card. What makes this card so good?
I mean, the art used to be beautiful. It got a nerf 2 last season, or 3 last seasons now, actually. Hopefully they'll buff it again.
Yeah.
It's just the art. It's like, you feel good when you have that beautiful face in your zoo, you know?
Yeah.
I do believe it's broken in 4-play games, right? Because you can get 6 appeal from them.
Oh yeah, now you're actually talking about the card. Yeah, I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It seems very broken in 4-play games.
We definitely have to talk about Archaeologist. Why is this actually so good?
I mean, just take it out of your Ark Nova game and burn it.
Alright.
It's just because some map provides you with a lot of borders and a lot of broken bonuses, like a partner zoo or even a rep in case of Silver Lake.
Or Uni on the Research Institute?
Yeah, that can be a bit awkward since you do need a science tag before playing Ark. It's fine, it's not like broken. I'm mostly thinking outdoor areas and
Silver Lake?
Silver Lake, yeah. But also I would say it's better on ICP than Research Institute. I don't know why they had to add any to it as well, but the endgame on ICP is very easy to fulfill.
There's a lot of problems with this card from a design point of view, but I guess the endgame is kind of good because it just gives you a reason to maybe pick up this card in the mid to late game where it's otherwise useless. Well, at least it gives you an endgame, I guess. So it's a bit more fun like that, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, but mostly it's just good in opening hand or your first card selection / display.
Yeah.
Which makes it a horrible design card.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I mean, it's still kind of fun though, but I think in practice. Oh, okay, all right. And then we have the Technology Institute. I know you love this card, right? There's actually a super interesting game with this card.
I hate this card.
All right, talk to me about this card. What is it you like about this card?
No, I don't like it. It's so annoying to play against. Because if you have it, you have so good break control. As long as you have 2 X tokens, you can just take cards and break 7 to cost a break, and you get both the X tokens back you spent. You get them back. Like the game in the background here, it's a very good example of snowballing.
Is it like the best card in the game in 2-player games?
It's a bit situational, probably not the best card, but it's definitely up there.
What would you say is the best card in 2-player games?
I'd say it's probably Explorer. If there's one card in my opening hand I want to have, it's obviously Archaeologist on Lake, but like Zoo School is great.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it also ties into the fact that the meta is gradually becoming more upgraded sponsor instead of upgrading association. That also makes cards like Explorer even better. So if you see it, you just take it and you upgrade sponsors, like no questions asked. It's very good.
Yeah, I mean, I just upgrade sponsors anyways,
even
if I don't see them.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later. You love upgrading sponsors, and it's funny that there are so many different ways to approach the game. So what about side entrance?
It's a lot of income. It might not be S tier anymore even. On most maps you can get at least 8 money income, some map 10 income.
Yeah.
The endgame, if you manage to fulfill that, is absolutely huge. It's basically 2 shields. But yeah, it takes a while to set up, which is the main weakness of it.
Obviously it is better in the early game because of all the incomes it gives, but sometimes it's just nice if you have upgraded sponsors just to throw a side entrance in there, just to get the end game bonus, even if it's not the early game anymore.
Yeah, or if you're very start on money.
Yeah, I guess.
Like you might still play it for 1 break just to get 8 money.
So if you were to make this list again, would you shake it up a little bit? Put side entrance like only in A+, and put Zoo School, Explorer up there, or do you stick with this list?
I would probably put Explorer and Communicator in S tier. I think side entrance would be between A+ and S tier.
Yeah.
Science Lab can stay in A+, I feel.
Yeah. Zoo School is also one of those. It's really good in your opening hand, but later on it's still good, but it's not necessarily broken. But like in your opening hand, it's just so good because you can get 4 repetition super fast.
You can get build flip before taking a build action.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you can also get a good card from display.
Yeah, are any of these cards enough reason to just upgrade sponsors, no question asked?
Yeah, I think any card is a reason to upgrade sponsors. Even an Animals card.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking the devil if he likes the heat, but...
Like all this upgrade sponsors talk, it's a lot better in 2-player games than in 3 and 4. It's still viable in 3-player games, and I barely played any 4-player games, so I can't really speak about that. Just because break control is a lot more important in 2-player games than 3 and 4.
Here is the most important question I'm going to ask you today. Can we just, as a community, agree to just revert to talented communicator as Taco in the future?
I think that's a great idea if I get the credit for coming off with the idea, you know?
Alright.
I refer to it as communicator. Taco is just better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure I typed to you earlier on Discord, right?
Yeah, I remember now, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll try to spread the word on that.
Yeah, it's a very good idea you came up with. I like it.
Yeah. Thank you. I thought long about that one.
And these cards, I think you said they are fine, but it's very hard to evaluate, and I agree with you, it's very hard to evaluate these. I think the sponsorships up here, if you have 3 tags, it's kind of like federal grants, but without the science tag, and the science tag is kind of a huge deal, like you mentioned earlier, so...
If you have 1 tag, it's kind of like federal grants, because it provides you the income.
Oh, you're right, it should be 1 tag. Yeah, what am I talking about? Yeah.
The issue is you're not getting the money immediately, like you do with federal grants.
Yeah. On the one hand, all the sponsorships are kind of bad, but you know, when they're good, they are good. Just really depends on the game. But usually I don't tend to play a lot of sponsor cards. I'm a bit more fan of the bottom row here, because you actually get the tag, which I think is huge.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't have any other sponsor card, I think I just play one of these, just to play something.
Yeah.
But obviously they
maybe not primatologist.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I do think.
And obviously all of these cards are absolutely S tier if there's also supports one of the base projects, like if Birds is up there. I mean, Ontologist is already good, right? But if Predator is a base project and you play Expert in Predators...
Yeah, it can be S tier, like especially in 4-player, it's definitely S tier.
Oh yeah,
but
that makes sense.
If
actually.
you have like no other birds in your hand, it might not be that good.
If it is a base project, I guess it's a pretty safe bet to just throw out an Ornithologist.
I mean, it's a definitely keep. Most of the time, pretty good keep in your opening hand.
I think I tend to slightly favor Ornithologists and Expert in Predators. The thing about Expert in Predators... Oh, sorry, here's wrong slide. This is Terraforming Mouse. Ah, there you go. The thing about Expert in Predators, it really snowballs, I feel like. If it works for you, it really works. Like, with the pack and the hunt, I mean, if you really snowball with Predators, it just becomes so good.
I do think I mentioned it in my sponsors video as well, that the bird sponsor is better, and also the Expert in Pred, because both of them have some type of card draw, which usually lets you draw more of the same animal type.
Yeah, exactly. So you can hunt for more predators, and then you get more packs, and you get more predators, you get more value. So I thought you only valued it at C tier or something.
Yeah, but I did value it higher than the other experts.
And I just wanted to show an example here, because this is one of the craziest games that I've had where I just went full Predators, like the combo you're talking about, Spotted Hyena Compound and Expert in Predators. And this is literally the first round, this is before the first break. It can get absolutely out of control. Very recently, Sam also did a sponsor tier list. I was surprised to see he hates sponsorships, very similar to me. Other than that, it's very similar to your list. I would say that the only two things that surprises me here. I have a little love for Expert in Europe. I can understand why it's the worst of the experts, but I don't know. Does it really have to be B tier? I don't think I hate it in my opening hand. Is it that bad?
I mean, it's not worse than Sea Turtle Tank, but it's pretty bad. It can be good, but usually not.
Isn't it literally the hardest endgame point to get 5 small animals in one enclosures?
To be fair, Polar Bear Exhibit, the 2-shield one is the hardest one.
Yeah, at least the 1 shield is just as good as this one. And that's kind of easy though, but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of easy.
In most games you're getting the 2-size enclosures, right? And then usually you just put whatever you have, 1-size or 2-size animals in those 3 2-size enclosures you have on the map anyway, so it's really hard to get 5 small animals in one enclosures, I feel like. It's a lot of work just to get 1 point, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I know that you guys, especially top players, you love releasing stuff, but is Migration Recording, is it really an S tier card? I mean, I agree it's good, but is it something that you would just snap pick in your opening hand? Is it that good?
I wouldn't snap pick it. Sam might have been a bit liberal putting it S tier. It's very high variance. It's either like the best card you can possibly have, or it gives you an X token basically.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it S tier, but also there's a lot in S tier here.
Yeah, I guess since it's here, maybe it's the bottom of S tier. Maybe that's how he looks at it. Yeah.
Probably.
And if you want to check out Sam's list, all of the links are in the description, by the way, so you can find them there. What about the Polar Bear Exhibit? When I started playing Ark Nova, I was like, it's fine. But after I began climbing and becoming better at the game, I've really started to enjoy this in my opening hand. But what's your take on this card?
Must keep if species up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Does give you the bear tag. Like, once again, maybe a bit high variance, because the bear tag might be useless.
Yeah. What about Vasa Special Assignment? I think this card is very interesting. It feels like it can go absolutely crazy, but when you mentioned that the Unistrat is more popular these days, it's kind of not that hard to get up to 6 reputation and slam this pretty early and then just snowball completely.
I think it's great. It's very underrated by a lot of players. Usually you do it on small. You just have to get to 6 rep, which is the hard part. If you have a release, cover the rep on the map and get both unis, you get 6 rep that way.
Here's the $1 million question. What if you have an eagle in your hand? Would you still sacrifice the eagle just to play small animals? Because I think I would, but I'm not sure you would.
I would, but it depends on the context, right?
Yeah.
How many small animals do I have? How many small animals do I see on display? How many cards am I gonna see from the deck? It depends.
Yep. Now let's talk about the conservation projects. First of all, you can get these with the rhinos. I feel like sometimes if Species 5 or Habitat 5 is open, as a base conservation project. The game is a little bit turning into a race to get to that spot first.
It is a race because it's the easiest project to fulfill at 5 shields. So it's good value that way, especially if the bonuses on the seafood track is good on 5 and 8. And also the fact that the difference between 5 and 4 species are 2 shields for some reason. So you lose a lot of losing the race.
Actually, one of the tournament game you played not too long ago, I was actually surprised because this is a progression 61%. So it was really late before you actually picked up Habitat 5.
So obviously Darsamoa is a very strong player. The thing why it's this late is none of us had the hand to go for a Habitat. We just assumed the opponent will get it before us.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it just plays out like that, right?
Some people think that you should take these as soon as possible on the 3rd slot just to get a project down. And some think that you should take it on 4 or 5 shields to get more value. And I think it kind of depends on the game. All game it's important to have a project in mind. So if you have no other way of claiming a project, maybe you kind of have to take the 3rd spot on one of these. Would you agree that it's kind of situational?
Obviously depends a lot. But also if I think I'm losing that race, I should just take the 3rd spot. It depends on what other projects you have and what other plans you have in store. Usually you want to do a project whenever you can.
And especially something like a breeding program or a release. Especially a breeding program, because I'm still at the mindset that the reputation is better the earlier you get it, so you can get to 5 or 8.
Breeding program is great. It's the best start you can have in Ark Nova when you play a breeding program that also matches the base conservation. So you have a project, but you still have like Asia 5 available for later.
Yeah. And maybe there is a race to some of the base conservations, and maybe you can also deny the opponent a spot. If birds 5 and 4 is open, and the opponent has maybe 3 tags, and you maybe have 5 tags, maybe you actually take the 4, the 2nd spot that gives you 4 points with 4 bird tags, because it's going to be really hard for the opponent to get 2 more bird tags to go to 5.
Yeah, it could be very hard. Birds is probably a bit riskier if they have an aviary.
Alright, this is like my noob approach to Ark Nova. If the 2nd spot provides 4 shield, I pretty much ignore the 1st spot. And if the 2nd spot provides 3 shield, I pretty much ignore that and then I just go for 2 shields. Pretty much, if there's predators 5 or 4, I tend to just take number 4, because there's only 1 less shield and then I get it earlier. So this is kind of how I think about it, but I know it's definitely not always like this.
I think it's a pretty old way of thinking about it. I think this was the norm going back to TTS. But
oh, really?
I think in, especially in 2-player games, you don't really have the luxury to be choosy, you know? You just have to do what really fits your hand and your game plan. Let's say, for Africa example, in 2 players, if the 5 is blocked, you should always look to get the 2 shields. Like, even if you have 4 Africa in hand, like, getting 2 Africa is very good because it blocks your opponent as well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I only recently began watching you and Sam, but I mostly just played this game to learn it by myself. I didn't really watch anyone. So it's kind of funny that where I'm at is pretty much where you guys were back in the day with my way of thinking.
It's very TTS club way of approaching the game, I think.
But I mean, it's not completely out there. There's some merit to it, right? Sometimes...
Yeah, there's some merit. I just don't think you really have the luxury to pick and choose. Because the game is a bit fast-paced, and yeah, you don't really want to take cards action, because cards doesn't provide you any points. You also kind of have to play what you draw.
And then we have the release projects. I didn't realize this when I started out playing, but these are actually very important, and sometimes you even keep them blind and stuff, just so you hope that you can get like a secretary bird or something to just go with it.
Yeah.
So you want to release animals with few tickets compared to the size of the enclosure. So generally these are some good release animals. I'm sure there are other release animals I'm not including here. Wolf or secretary bird, white stork. It's a big animal, but it's only 4 tickets. So if you can release this, especially in the early game, it just gives you a huge boost on the conservation track. Also all the iconic animals, if you can line it up, it's a bit harder because they are a bit hard to fulfill to get good value out of an iconic animal, and then you happen to have the right release for it. Obviously these are also great value if you can release them. What do you think?
I mean, I think the main benefit of release is the fact that it provides you with a project to do. I don't think you really have the luxury to be that picky. Obviously, if you can release a secretary bird, you're very happy. Doing a project is better than not doing a project. I think the fewer build action could matter if you're releasing something big in a mid game. Any particular release. I mean, bird release, there's a lot of sheepic birds. Reptile release, I suppose. Africa, Asia, Europe release, pretty solid.
What I had in mind is Europe and birds and Africa. To hit some of the big birds or wolf or something.
Yeah.
But I guess there are a lot of targets no matter what you choose, basically.
Yeah, the issue with like Australia release, Monkey release, and Europe release is there's less of that in the deck. The big size Europe are very cheap to play. That's what makes it good.
Yeah.
The big size Australia are not very cheap to play, and there's also less in it in the deck. So.
In your opening hand, is it pretty much like every time you see a release and a matching play in my animal, you keep it?
Yeah, usually. Unless the hand is very stacked, you might have better stuff to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of bad if you release like a Barbarian Macaw, for example, and your opponent has a Secretary Bird.
Oh yeah, but it's kind of hard to play around, right? Unless you saw him snap it, but yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So if you're going for like a Barbarian Macaw release, you increase your variance.
I really used to just release anything all the time, no matter what, in the first round, because I was like, super fast upgrade, let's go, upgrade build. But it's actually not always like that, because what I realize is if you release animal in the very first round, it can create some problems with, for example, income, tempo, and also your second card upgrade. Stuff like this is something you have to think about. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think most of the time releasing turn 1 is, or break 0 is mistake, because first of all, your actions kind of have to line up for it.
Yeah.
You need to build animals of that order to make it good, but also say you're releasing like something very expensive, like you're not gonna have a lot of money and no appeal. Usually when you release first round, you want to be able to reuse the enclosure that round.
Yeah, so these days I feel like it's pretty situational. So the breeding programs, it's very good to have a breeding program and a matching playable animal. Breeding programs, I feel like they are very good early game and they are fine in late game, but this is also because of this, maybe I have this wrong mentality that I think that the reputation is better in the early game.
Yeah. I think that's a fine mentality to have, unless you need reputation for favorite zoo or something.
Yeah. And also it feels a little bit underwhelming just to get 2 points off of a project in the late game. It feels like breeding programs, they're excellent in the early game at least, but falls off a little bit.
I mean, it's fine. Obviously, you would love to do a base conservation for 15 points instead.
Yeah.
But it's not bad. But once again, I don't think you can be that picky about what projects you're doing.
Yeah.
As long as you have a product, you should be happy.
Yeah. Are you more likely to keep a breeding program blind or a release blind?
Probably a release, just because it doesn't tie me to the
partner zoo.
It doesn't tie me to the partner zoo, yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. Do you keep any breeding programs blind? Let's say you don't have a matching animal for it. Is it also one of these luxury things you might do in case you don't have anything else better on your hand?
Yeah, if I don't have anything better in my hand.
Are there any particular breeding programs you favor?
Yeah, I don't really favor anything. I would say primate is worse, just because there's less playable primates. Reptile breeding, the reptiles are very cheap, so kind of easy to get off. Birds could be a bit expensive. Urvis could also be a bit expensive, but yeah.
And the predator breeding program, I guess it doesn't really fall into the category that it snowballs your predator strategy. It doesn't really give you the pack and the hunt and everything. But I mean, it's still fine if you can do it.
Any product snowballs you, right?
Yeah, and then we got the rest of them. Which of these would you prefer, and how worried are you about claiming the third spot on these? Personally, I don't feel good if I claim the third spot on research, but I think maybe this is a wrong mentality to have. What do you think about this?
Depends on how early it is. After first break, claiming 2 on research is fine. You might get punished if there's not a lot of projects cycling. So it stays around for a long time, and obviously you don't want to claim Aquatic 2 if opponent has like a aquarium in play, etc. And
finally, let's talk about the final scoring cards.
Yeah, so we have S tier, we have favorite zoo, diverse species zoo, then the rest is F tier.
Really?
That's right. Pretty much.
Alright. When I started out playing a few months ago, it was mostly architectural zoo that I really liked because I love filling out the map. But I've come around. It's actually harder when you climb in rank because the games are faster. Alright, well, that was a very short and to the point rating of these cards. Thank you.
I don't think they matter so much.
Yeah, that was actually the next point I'm gonna make here. Because do we really care that much about the final scoring cards? Like when we are looking at our opening hands?
Usually when I have a decision, I'm not sure what I want to go. I do look at my final scoring to maybe sway me.
Yeah, I guess it's fair to say that we care a lot more about the base projects than our mission cards. Is it true?
Yeah.
What about Terraforming Mars though? I'm curious. Are you the best in Terraforming Mars, at least on...
I was for a
on BGA.
time on BGA, but I mean, people on BGA are kind of weak, and I think the better plays on the Steam app. So like, I would love to say I am, but I might not even be top 10, to be honest. I'm not sure how big the Steam app is.
I don't know either, but I would imagine you're right that there's probably more people in Steam that are high rated. I don't know.
It's kind of funny because I feel there's a lot of comparison between Ark and Terraforming Mars, but I don't think they're similar at all.
Yeah.
People always complain about Ark Nova having no interaction and luck-based. I think Terraforming Mars has way more luck and way less interaction than Ark. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I think that's true actually. I'm like maybe top 60 in the Mars app or something, so I definitely see what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense.
I mean, of course there's variance, but I think there has to be variance in any game, or otherwise you have chess, right? And
Yeah.
I don't believe chess is a very good design game.
Actually, the top chess players say there's also luck in chess, but it's not very relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Mostly like what opener you choose, etc.
Yeah.